Tom Cotton is coming on. He made a great observation. The endless wars of Iran. Since 1979, they've been attacking the entire region, chanting death to America, death to Israel since their very founding. It's time to close the chapter on the Iranian Ayatollah and his henchmen. Let's close that chapter soon and start a new chapter in the Mideast, one of tolerance, hope, and peace.
But the Trump doctrine seems to be very clear tonight, Senator, and that is that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, number one, and I agree with that.
Would you support if the U.S. decided to strike Iran directly, even if U.S. forces have not been attacked, in order to try to actually eliminate the plant at Fordo and Natanz?
I mean, I would like to see Iran's nuclear capability to be completely disarmed. It is a tough problem. You would have to hit those facilities, the underground facilities, with GBU-57s. The massive ordnance penetrator. It's a 5,000-pound weapon. The Israelis, not only do they not have the weapon, they don't have the ability to deliver it, even if they did have it.
I actually really love Trump. I think he's a deeply humane, kind person. And I am saying this because I'm really afraid that my country's going to be further weakened by this. I think we're going to see the end of American empire, obviously. Other nations would like to see that, and this is a perfect way to scuttle the USS America on the shoals of Iran. But it's also going to end, I believe, Trump's presidency and effectively end it. And so that's why I'm saying this.
What do you mean by that? That's coming from you. That's
look, I knew Bush. I knew George W. Bush. We had, family connections to Bush. I knew Bush. Personally, I still see Bush sometimes. And, of course, he hates me, and he does because I criticized him on Iraq. And that war is the sum total, from a historical perspective, of his administration. But I knew him, and he had all kinds of plans for the things that he wanted to do. But once domestically, right, to improve the country. Right. And you may agree or disagree, but in his mind, he wasn't just about the invasion of Iraq in March of 2000.
Oh, no. He was going to redo Social Security. 100%,
he had all
types of. He was going to take care of the entitlements issue.
And he really thought it was going to work.
Yep.
And you could laugh at that or whatever, but the point is, the second you get enmeshed in a real war, not a fake, let's go bomb the villagers and declare success, though we don't even have a good track record. Why are the Houthis still there? No, there's a whole other question, right, which is how prepared is the U.S. military for a real conflict? And the answer is totally unprepared. Scary unprepared. I don't think people understand that. But anyway, the only reason I'm saying any of this is because I really, really care.
Welcome to Truth with J.J. Carrell. I played that last clip of Tucker Carlson because what he said is so valuable. Is Bush didn't want to just go to war. He wanted to do all these other social changes in America, Social Security. Social change, I mean social benefits, Social Security, et cetera, and he got derailed in the war on terror. Isn't it interesting that when Trump is riding high, deportations are starting to pick up, we're changing the way that we do trade, the trade imbalance, the economy's starting to pick up, and now we have to go to war. The similarities between the Iraq war, Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen, Libya, on and on and on. The similarities are eerie. You have Netanyahu in our houses of Congress, dating back decades, telling us we have to go to war. We have to go to war. Not just for Israel, of course, but for America, because they're going to come over here and kill America. We've allowed this guy, Bibi, to lie to the American public for decades, to the tune of tens of thousands of dead servicemen, hundreds of thousands of servicemen and their families, probably millions, having to deal with extreme PTSD, severe and extreme mental illness, not to even mention, which we have to mention, not discounting this at all, the endless amounts of soldiers that have been maimed, lost limbs, had their whole bodies burnt to a crisp and still live inside of their whole body has changed, their whole look has changed, their skin was melted. For what? We keep coming back for this. I'm going to keep driving this home because no one wants to talk about it. So I'm going to go there. Why are we doing this? What have we gained in almost 3 decades? Almost 3 decades. Well, we are now between $8 and $9 trillion of just burnt. We just threw away $8 to $9 trillion. Just burnt it. Did we get oil reserves? Did we get land? Did we get mineral rights? Did we take anyone's gold? Did anybody pay us back for blowing up their countries? Because that's what we've done. We've gone in and we've killed other countries' leaders. Let's talk about that for a second. We've disposed leaders because we don't like the way that they run their country. We don't like the way that they have slave labor. We don't like their caste system. We don't like their theology. We don't like how they treat women. But let's take a look at America, can we? Well, guess what? I don't like how we treat women. I don't like men and women's sports. I don't like how we treat our children. I don't like murdering our children. I don't like that we don't have a religion in America anymore. Maybe we should dispose of all of our leaders. Why not? Why does America, who is in a moral cesspool, don't even go there with we're the shiny city on the hill. That's such a bull piece of crap lie. We do not have any moral high ground. Zero. We're critiquing the Quran and Muslims while we're sitting over here as a Christian, quote, a former Christian nation where we're mutilating our children. Ripping their parents are ripping their genitals off their children and changing their sex. We're murdering over 60 million babies. We believe that men can have babies and we're gender fluid, whatever the hell that means. We poison our kids. Our kids are obese pieces. They're like giant potatoes walking around. Our adults are obese. Our young men, 16 to 24, 70% can't join the military because they're fat and obese or they're drug addicts. And we're sitting here saying, Lindsey, I don't ask, don't tell, Graham says we have to go and do a regime change in Iran. Really? How did that work in Syria? How did that work in Iraq? How did that work in Libya? I mean, hell, I can go on and on. How about Ukraine? How does that work in Ukraine when we dispose their leader? How does any of this benefit America? And the answer is it doesn't. It does nothing for America. The idea, look, I just had a quote debate with an elite thinker. And this guy was trying to convince me that our intervention in the world is good. And then he actually went to Vietnam and said, well, we had to go to Vietnam because they would come over to us and kill us. The boat people from Vietnam were going to get in little wooden boats and travel thousands of miles to America and do what? Stab us with bamboos? You see the absurdity of all this? Israel tells us, sends their prime minister over us for decades telling us that it's not Israel at threat. No, it's America and Israel at threat. No, you're at threat, Israel. You deal with it. I'm not sending my young son to fight and die for Israel and Jews. Not going to do it. My son's not going to go to Ukraine and die for Christian or Jewish Ukrainians. Not going to do it. Not going to do it. If Canada gets raided and they're all dying up there, I'll go to the border and we'll protect America, but my son's not going to die for Canadians. Not going to die for anybody. I'm so tired of this. I'm so tired of quasi-homosexual leaders in our houses of Congress and the Senate and people that have no children to sit there and tell that we need to send my children, my Christian children have to go in the meat grinder. If you haven't had it, America, if you aren't at your wit's end, if you don't want to punch someone square in the face, I don't know what else you need to know. You have a president that now is flipping the script. He was voted in really for three things. President Trump, I want the economy back and I want money in my pocket. 2, I want all of the illegal aliens and I want them gone yesterday. 3, I don't want to be in any wars, period. How's this working? The economy's not cranking as much as I want. There's still millions of illegal aliens. You just had to reverse your thought process on giving amnesty, and that let's not even mince words. You're going to give amnesty to the hospitality sector and the farm workers. That's what you were going to do. And now 3, we're going to war. We're going to go to war. Why is the Ukraine war not done? It was supposed to be done within 24 hours, sir. That was your promise. Well, one way you could have done that is you could have squeezed every cent and not let 1 cent go into Ukraine from America. Why are the NGOs still getting money to traffic children and illegal aliens into America? I see the videos. I don't need to. And I'm seeing videos from my colleagues, people that I respect, not some on the internet cuff. I'm talking about people that are investigative journalists that are my friends, not acquaintances, are my friends, are sending me videos and going, look at these people. They're still moving these families through and kids through the airport. Look at, they're all wearing the same damn jumpsuit. It's a white sweatpants suit. And they're all just walking through our airports again. Well, what the hell's going on? It's the same as MVM and it's Catholic Charities, the Jewish families. It's the same damn NGOs. Where's that money? Why is the NGO still getting money? There are so many things I need to ask Donald Trump. Sir, what the hell's going on? Why are you getting war advice from Lindsey Graham and Tom Cotton? Who's telling you to give amnesty to farm workers? I have a guest that she's ready to come in. I'm ready to talk to her. I just have to give one sponsorship shout out, and that is to sat123.com. And if you don't think that you need to be prepared right now, if you don't think that we're on the precipice of World War III, this is how it all starts. This is how it all begins, right? Go back and watch or read or listen to historians talk about, well, it was really wild in World War I. All of a sudden, all things began to coalesce like overnight, and bam, we were in war. World War II. We were out of it. And all of a sudden, boom! Oh my God, we were neck deep in World War II, and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of soldiers dead. Oh my God! All of a sudden, now we're in full blown war in Vietnam. The difference between World War I and World War II in Vietnam. Here's the difference. The difference is we have allowed the enemy into our nation. They are inside of our borders. Over 100,000 PLA soldiers, at least 1 million terrorists from the Middle East. As we're bombing the Middle East, you have Middle Eastern terrorists in America. We are going to fight a war on our shores, and it's going to happen fast. You better be prepared. I'm not blackpilling. I'm just telling you these are the facts. You can come to a different conclusion. That's fine. Stay with your conclusion. My conclusion and my family's ready. And we're going to be connected. And the best way to do it is through sat phones. Because what are they going to do? What are the enemy going to do the very first thing when they get the green light to go? They're going to tear down and destroy all of our ability to communicate, our water supply, our energy supplies. Everything's going to get destroyed. Be prepared. This is a warning that I give to my family. We need to be prepared, and we're going to get prepared. sat123.com/JJ. All right, Ann Vandersteel is here. I don't want to keep any of her time. She's very busy. Ann, how are you doing today?
Well, JJ, it's just getting more interesting, isn't it? Listening to you is refreshing because you're echoing what I believe most of America is thinking right now is they don't really want to get involved in this skirmish in the Middle East. But you know what? No. I want to frame this and contextualize this because something I firmly believe in, the Middle East crisis is of our own making, and it's really the intelligence community's own making. And this goes back to the 50s, MI6 from Great Britain, the CIA, Mossad, but mostly MI6 and the CIA, really they're all feathers from the same bird, created the crisis that we see in Iran. They ripped out a democratically elected government and implanted their own regime. And what we see today is the manifestation of the CIA just cultivating this rogue regime so that we always have a boogeyman to point to. And when you look at Israel, which is really the human shield for the city of London, the bankers, the international bankers, which is behind, war crimes extraordinaire around the world and the imperialistic deployment of U.S. troops around the world with our massive military to, spread bombs of democracy, and of course, go false flag after false flag over these WMDs. At this point, I've got to ask the public, are we actually witnessing maybe some kind of covert operation where President Trump has got Bibi Netanyahu's by the short hairs? Maybe that sword of Damocles, maybe the Samson option has now been exposed by Iran. Maybe the pedophile blackmail list Iran may have control of. I saw a guest on Owen Schroyer the other day talking about it, as there was another guest last night. Again, these are their reporting. I can neither confirm nor deny any of this, but is there something else afoot here that maybe we're just not privileged to? Because President Trump campaigned on peace. He campaigned on ending these endless wars. And there's something so incongruous about this. Lindsey Graham and Mike Pompeo running over to Ukraine, and the next thing, drones start flying over there and bombing Russia. Trying to gin up that war. And then, of course, we have the Iran thing erupt seemingly out of nowhere as we have massive riots here in our own country. We have to be really, we've got to stay really connected to what's happening here. We have our own issues. Why are we meddling over there? Well, could it be that finally we understand we have several rogue regimes? One of them is Bibi Netanyahu. What he did to his people with the COVID shot was criminal, is genocidal, in fact. And then you've got the CIA that's installed this rogue regime, and it's been managing it for decades in Iran. And the Iranian people are looking for liberation. They have been for quite some time. So maybe this is some sort of blended covert operation. Because if I think it's otherwise, if I think President Trump has turned into a warmonger, then we're looking at the most massive Trojan horse America has ever seen. And wow, this would be worse than some of the other psyops they've done to us over the decades. And I frankly, I don't have the heart, the stomach to go there on that premise. So I'm sticking in the affirmative and the positive, and I watch General Flynn, listen to Colonel McGregor. And of course, I follow President Trump's True Social feed. So trying to find the truth is sort of trying to look through a sifter of everything that's being puked on the internet right now and sort of draw your own conclusions. But as General Flynn has always stood by, we've got to take down the CIA. That has to go. And I do believe they're a big problem behind all of these wars that we see around the world.
I kind of agree with you, but I don't believe Donald Trump's a warmonger. I think that he has terrible people around him that are telling him bad information. I really do. And I do believe, like you just laid out, okay, we have Iran, it came out of nowhere, bombings. Then we have Ukraine issues blowing up. Now we have riots all across America. I never believe that things just randomly happen. There's no such thing as just random. Things are done. All of the protests were funded by NGOs that hate America. They have all the socialist branding names that you can imagine. Everything's happening at the same time. What is amazing, though, and I'd like to get your take on this, it's amazing how this war is destroying, it's ripping MAGA apart. And where the seam is happening is social media and media tycoons, like the big ones. So let's talk about Mark Levin. Let's talk about Laura Loomer. You don't have to like her or not, but she's huge, right? And on X. Everything, Ben Shapiro, everything coalesces around Israel's and the Jews. Why is it that every single thing that we have to do in the Middle East is also tied directly to Israel? We don't talk about Nigeria or Uganda. We don't talk this way about Canada or France. We don't talk about any other nation except Israel. What in God's name has infected the mind of American leaders and media that everything revolves around Israel and the Jews? Why?
Money. Money, money, money. And I'm going to, posit this because this is not an anti-Semitic comment at all. Israel as a state has more than just the Jewish people. It has people, Palestinians, it has Christians, it has, Islamists. And there's a multitude of people that live in Israel. So, but you have to look at the government, just like you have to look at the government of every country, just like we're looking at the government of our country. It's corrupt to the core. You've got a few good people at the top, but everybody underneath it, and we're talking hundreds of thousands, millions federal employees that are there just for the grift, for the paycheck, for the six-figure salaries, and they're almost impossible to remove. So you are trying to steer a ship when you have maybe, you know, a half a dozen people, it's an exaggeration, but very few people that are rowing the boat in one direction while everybody else is going in the different direction, because they're about their self-preservation. And again, money comes out of the AIPAC lobby, which is the biggest lobby that, you know, basically owns all of Congress, save Thomas Massie. This is the City of London controls Israel. It's the bankers, it's the Rothschilds, which are really, you know, the talk about the parent company behind it all. It's really the international banking cabal. And this includes the Bank of International Settlements, includes our Federal Reserve. It includes all the SWIFT banks that are on the SWIFT system. Remember when they kicked Russia off SWIFT? Russia said, no problem. We'll sell our oil in rubles backed by gold. You're going to have to pay gold for our oil. We don't care about dollars anymore. And BRICS has gone off, and they're settling their trade imbalances between all the BRICS nations with gold. So they don't need our money anymore. They don't need our debt. They don't need to invest in America. They have themselves, and they're doing apparently just fine. In fact, Russian oil is being sold into Europe through India. They figured out a way around the sanctions. So, you know, this is what we have to come to terms with. It's about trade routes, it's about power, it's about money. And this is why it always comes back to Israel, because they are the human shield for the bankers out of the City of London. And the people that run the government of Israel are the same people that are running the banks out of the City of London. So when you finally understand that and you make that connection, you realize it's one and the same. That's where this is coming from. And that's the people that are bribing our members of Congress, of which many have dual citizenship with Israel.
That's a topic that we can talk about on another day, because I want to talk about this. And Thomas Massie, you just mentioned him. He's putting forth a bill stating when you have dual citizenship, you have to choose an allegiance. And every single time a bill comes up to the House and about dual citizenship, they vote it down. They voted down. We have members of Congress. Look, we're sitting here, and I am railing against Ilhan Omar. I think she should be absolutely expelled from Congress. She has dual allegiance and dual citizenship with Somalia. She openly talks about that her votes are all for whatever's good for Somalia. She should be removed. At the same time, when I'm finding out people that have dual citizenship with Israel and they're voting constantly for the betterment of Israel and not the betterment of America, why are they not held to the same standard? And the answer is because it has infected, this Israel thing has infected the minds of all of our politicians. It is unbelievable what we have been lied to. Look, and it's the same damn movie script that we heard about Iraq. Well, Iraq has weapons of mass. The cave dwellers in Iraq, the people that live with goats and live on the land are going to bomb us and kill us. Trust me. Trust you. Bibi Netanyahu, trust me, it needs to happen. Okay, we trust you. No, there's no weapons of mass destruction. We're going on the third decade, Ann. We're going into decade 3 very shortly of war. What have we gotten except maimed, destroyed, and dead American soldiers? What? Nothing. Zero.
Yeah. Flag draped coffins and debt. Lots and lots of debt. But again, this goes back to the intelligence community. Who owns Hollywood? Who owns the media? Who's MK Ultra'd America through the weaponization of the propaganda arm of the federal government, which is the mainstream media, and of course Hollywood, all owned and operated by the same parent company, which goes back to the bankers. CIA works for the bankers. This is nothing but a weaponization. And thank you, Barack Obama, 2012, for the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act, which legalized the fact that the federal government can use the mainstream media to propagandize Americans. So we have been mind melded over and over and over with the same playbook, the same narrative, WMD, WMD, WMD. But what are we learning about 9/11? That it was Israel that sent, children over to wire up our towers and pretend it was an art project. And yet you've got Israeli young men celebrating as the towers are coming down. It's caught on video. The towers didn't just collapse when an airplane collided into them. There's been multiple videos on that. I've done interviews with Richard Gates. Many people have interviewed lots of people that are subject matter experts on this. When planes hit buildings, buildings don't collapse. In fact, there was a recent plane that hit a building last week, I believe, in India, and it was stuck out the building, and there it was. It wasn't, the plane was, still available, and the building was still standing. So you can't sit there and tell me that we are just swallowing this whole today. We're not. We are seeing it for what it is. The problem is our enemy, which is within, the people that are being funded by the same bankers through lobbyists and foreign governments, are fat, dumb, and happy, and their hubris will be their downfall. They are become emboldened, and they're doing it in public and broad daylight. Do you remember when President Trump said in his first presidency he was so popular he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue in broad daylight and nobody would arrest him? He was, I believe, mocking what we see happening today. These people have locked us up. They've masked us. They force mandate shots into many of us. Thank God you and I weren't victim to that. But many people have been harmed by the very same government that we supposedly elect to defend us. And while they're supposed to be defending us, they left our borders wide open. You witnessed it and said, I can't deal with this anymore. Just like I have, just like millions have. And now we're watching and living through the wreckage of what was a republic. And again, it all comes back to the people that are financing this, that are involved in these NGOs and Bilderbergs, the Illuminati, the United Nations, the Committee of 300, and on and on and on. It always comes back to the money, JJ.
Here's something I want to show you, and I think this is a character flaw of Donald Trump, and it's a flaw. It's also a character positive, if you will, a strength where he goes for the jugular, but sometimes he makes a mistake. And I'm going to show you this video of him making fun of Tucker Carlson. And I think this is a very, very strategically bad decision because Tucker Carlson is us. As much as Donald Trump represents us, Tucker Carlson and his ability to communicate a very certain and direct and in a common way is a lot of us. So when he attacked Tucker Carlson and tried to diminish his profession, it really struck me, and a lot of people didn't catch this. Can you play this, Caleb? I just want to get Ann's take on what he says about Tucker Carlson. Caleb, it's going to be, it's right under the newest Middle East war, and I have Trump on Tucker Carlson. It's in the Ann section. You go to Sat123, go to Ann Vandersteel, and okay, you'll edit it. Okay, can you play this? Okay, go ahead, Caleb, play this, please.
What was your response to Tucker Carlson criticizing you, saying that you were complicit in the war?
I don't know what Tucker Carlson is saying. Let him go get a television network and say it so that people listen.
And quickly, have you spoken to Zelensky before your bylaws?
Have you seen that before, Ann?
I have, and you know, it's an interesting comment because really President Trump is the podcast president, and Tucker Carlson, besides Joe Rogan, represents the biggest podcast on the internet. And so Tucker Carlson has been a staunch supporter of President Trump, even when he wasn't, I should say he converted. He became a very big supporter of President Trump. I watched an interview with he and Steve Bannon they did yesterday on Tucker's show. It was a fantastic interview. I thought Bannon and he were 100% on point. Bannon leaning into what I just said about the entire intelligence community. So, and Tucker agrees. And Tucker has, grew up in D.C. This is what he is familiar with. He understands the apparatus. Bannon lobbying out there that Tucker needs to be one of the advisors around the president. So for President Trump to make a throwaway line like that is kind of interesting because he's, clearly he has denigrated all the major news networks. He calls them the fake news. And for him to say, tell Tucker to go get, a job at the network is bizarre, considering Tucker has been probably one of the best supporters of President Trump. So, if President Trump has a problem with people who don't agree with him and the position that he's taking, and really Tucker it's not a bilateral decision. Just because you're anti the war doesn't mean you're pro-Iran. And people mistake that all the time. I'm anti this war. I'm not pro-Iran. If you need to take out leadership, I don't think you need to bomb Iran into the Stone Age. I think you just send a covert team and you take it out. But that would tell me then that we really have control of our intelligence community, which I don't think we do. So this may be like a very complex operation, going back to my previous comments. Tucker Carlson, I don't believe was worthy of that throwaway line. I think President Trump, just like his, I'm going to say air quotes, fight with Elon, they've now made up. Maybe it's just a throwaway line to just sort of distance himself from the fact that, what President Trump is actually trying to get done. I don't know. I think it's a wait and see thing. It just seemed rather petty, his response. Yeah,
it did. And I think it's when you look at what Tucker Carlson's reach is and Joe Rogan, I mean, you can take the whole media and push it together and add up their viewers, and it doesn't even reach a fraction of what those men reach. So
Not even.
I just found that soundbite so telling that I just wanted your comment on. And the second thing that I wanted to talk to you about today, and Donald Trump has reversed this. It just came out this morning, is his, and I call it amnesty. And I'm not going to mince words. I'm not going to dance around. President Trump was being advised to give amnesty to farm workers and service industry people, illegal aliens. Now, I went ballistic when I first heard him saying we're going to do a pause on deportations. And I was trying to explain this to my wife yesterday, and she goes, well, that's not amnesty. And I go, no, you're missing the whole point. It is amnesty. He's not going to deport them. They can just work freely. They can work freely with no Social Security number, no W-2s, no 9, no anything, no employer protection, nothing. They're just free, and they get to just roam Earth and take all of our social benefits. I lost it. I said, okay, wait a minute. No. This is not what I voted for, sir. You don't get to pick and choose as a prior Border Patrol agent. You don't have the ability. I think that I was one of the top tier agents. I could not determine, unless the guy had tattoos all over his face, I could not determine who was a rapist, a pedophile, a murderer, or a farm worker in Nebraska. You couldn't tell. You can't tell. It's to say that you can tell is a lie. It's just a lie. So to order Border Patrol agents, hey, I want you to skirt around all the farmers and all the hotel. And the reason why the farm work, we had a program called the Bracero program, where we bring in farm workers, where we can bring in service industry. But why those big ag and big hospitality don't want to use the Bracero program or something, whatever name they want to call it now, is because they'll have to pay a payroll tax. They'll have to pay Social Security. They're going to have to pay workers' comp. They're going to have to pay them the proper wage. They're never going to do that. So what Donald Trump did in that extreme moment of ignorance and weakness was say, hey, America, you're not first anymore. The people that are first are big ag and big social, big service, and you're going to fund it. You're going to subsidize everything because they're not giving them a 401k. They're not giving them a health care. They're not giving them housing. We are, because you pay them nothing and take all that labor savings and take it as profit. But America, you stupid suckers, are going to pay for all of these people. Am I reading it? Am I too close to it as a Border Patrol agent, or do you agree with me?
No, I agree with you in part, and the part that I agree with is that it's, amnesty is unacceptable. We already have workarounds for this, and we've been using them. The H-2A program, right? Mm-hmm. This is the temporary agricultural worker visa program in the U.S. that grants these folks here 10 months. It can be extended for an additional 3 months. It's for foreign nationals, primarily those from Latin America, and they're hired on for farm labor, et cetera, et cetera. Here's the thing. There are not enough U.S. workers that are willing to do this kind of work. You know it. I know it. Maybe people don't want to admit it, but that's the fact. People don't want to do this kind of work. So employment of the H-2A workers is not necessarily going to affect the employment of American workers or even our working conditions. Because again, these people are given housing. They're given free food. This is like, you come and work for us. We're going to take care of you. You'll have no living expenses, and then you can go home. The problem that we're seeing, and maybe this is where the nuance comes in, is that a lot of these people coming across the border may have looked like they were here for that type of work, but they weren't coming in under that visa. And so they were just going to be granted amnesty, which really would not be fair to the people that are here working under the visa. And it certainly wouldn't be fair to the people who come here legally, the millions of people who've come to this country legally. So you really can't do that. We have a program for this, and it's called H-2A. If these people want to go out and come back in and apply for an H-2A visa, we're happy to accept them. And so when he was granting amnesty for the farm workers and hotel workers, really essentially what he was doing was granting amnesty for all of these people, because they were going to say that they were here to do these kinds of jobs. Well, there weren't enough jobs for them to fill. You need to do this through the H-2A program, where it's tracked and these jobs are done. These jobs are offered out to people judiciously from the farms and the corporations that have the employment, opportunities available. And they know what those are. But to say millions of people are coming in to do that work and they're not classified H-2A and then give them amnesty, that's an affront to the people who came here legally, JJ. So I'm glad they've reversed the position, because clearly they see the nuance about what I'm just explaining to you.
Well, I agree with that, and you're right. They were going to abuse that as they've done on all other amnesties. Well, you can't arrest me. I'm a farm worker. Well, okay. Well, what proof do you have?
Are you here as an H-2A farm worker? That's the question. Let me see your documentation, because you can't make this a pipeline for cheap foreign labor subsidized by U.S. taxpayers. It's got to be legit.
Right. And you said something, and I want to follow up on this. You said that it's a lot of jobs that Americans won't do, and I agree to that to a point. They're not going to do it at that wage. And let me give you an example. Right. This happened over a decade ago, and I reported on it when I was just still in the Border Patrol, but I was writing on the side. And then I pull up an article just yesterday in Nebraska where they went into, I think it was a meat packing plant, and took out about 100 people. That company then had to raise the wage within a day. And I'm going to read to you from not like Breitbart. This is from NBC News, so you can imagine how painful it was for them to write this. And I'm going to read this. This is their very first sentence of their article from Nicole Avesado. Every seat in the waiting area of Glen Valley Foods was occupied with people filling out job applications. American citizens, there were jobs to be had that were giving under the table to illegal aliens for improper wages. And when we removed them from that that processing plant, Nebraska American citizens were able to come in, and they flooded the job applicant lobby to get those jobs. This is why this idea was so insulting, was when Donald Trump tried to push this through. It was insulting to the American people. You either deport everybody, or you just go down in history just as a so-so president. That's as simple as it's going to get. And I am your biggest supporter, and I am his biggest supporter, because without him, we would be nowhere near trying to correct this. However, when he gets sidetracked and he allows, who in the hell was advising him on this? I know Stephen Miller was never on board on something like this. Who in the hell do you think was responsible for this advice to him that says, yeah, let's do this, boss?
Yeah, it's a great question. I have no idea, because it seems so antithetical to everything President Trump campaigned on. I mean, he's built his entire, this is, his second term on mass deportations and building the wall and protecting American jobs and bringing manufacturing home. So to sit here and listen to the Trump administration talking about amnesty for farm and hotel workers is like, wait, what? There are Americans that would like these jobs. Now, understand this does come at a cost, because when you have to pay wages that are commensurate with what an American will do that job for, unless, of course, that American wants to move in to the H-2A conditions where they're living there, they're working there, they're being fed there. If they're amenable to that and the pay scale is the same, by all means, do it. Unless, of course, they just simply can't get people to do that kind of work, then they've got to deal with the Americans in this country. And again, our cost of living is so out of control because of the government that we have. Everything we pay for, JJ, is impacted by how big our government currently is, and the fact that we have a runaway train called the Federal Reserve printing money like a drunken sailor. So we are just, it's more than just getting Americans those jobs. It has everything to do with the cost of living in this country and the size of the government that we have. And the bigger our military industrial complex gets, the more of a takeover we have in health and human services by Big Pharma, which is now a $3 trillion agency versus the DOD at $1 trillion. You understand here that that's not sustainable. We can't afford that as people. And so therefore, the reason we import cheap labor is so that at least our food isn't exorbitant at the dinner table at night. But if we go to American workers, it is going to come at a cost to the American consumer as well.
And I'm all for that. Let's just do it. Let's the only way to, it's like you're a drug addict and everything in your life is completely upside down. It's in turmoil. What do? you clean out everything out of your life.
Rip the Band-Aid.
Rip the Band-Aid off. We're going to go back down to the basic of my humanity, and I'm going to build myself back up. That's what America is. America is riddled with cancer, and we have to eradicate every bit of it and then rebuild her. And I'd be very honest, Ann, I don't know if we can do it. I really don't know. I think that it's decades, over 100 years of abuse, corruption, and graft. I really don't believe, unless there is some kind of very, very physical, kinetic type of purging of America's society and government, that we're going to make a significant enough change to change course. But that's just my feeling. It's overwhelming. Every weekend we think, well, we didn't even, last time we talked, we didn't talk about, there was no riots, there was no war, there was no amnesty for farm workers. Dear God, Ann, what's going to happen in 7 days when I see you again? Who knows?
We say this every week, JJ.
Every week.
7 days from now, what's going to happen? I know we go through this every week. Listen, we're moving at the speed of Trump at the moment, and MAGA is I believe, doing their job. Listen, our voices got loud. We said, "Oh, hell no, amnesty to farm workers and hotel employees," and Trump listened, and the administration moved back. This is how the government is supposed to work. So while it's infuriating to see something like that, when we rose up and our voices were loud, they heard, they responded. So to that, I say A+ for the Trump administration for listening. Truly, I'm thrilled that they did.
No, I that's a great point, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because he did a course correction, and you are right. That's what we want. You get bad advice and you make a bad move, and then all hell breaks loose. Then you go, okay, hold on, I'm going to retract it, because as I said earlier today in my monologue, you work for us, Donald Trump. We love you. We love you. We got your back, but never forget, sir, that you work for us, and that you are responsible for America first and America always. Anyone else, any other nation, any other nationality, they're not even in the top 1,000, and we have over 1,000 issues in America that we need to deal with. We'll deal with Israel, Ukraine, and all the Middle East and all that after we take care of the thousands upon thousands of issues here in America. And thank you so much for all your time. Love talking to you. I love your perspective. Everyone can go to Ann Vandersteel, at Ann Vandersteel. And then, Ann, tell us about your show real quick, about your show on Worldview Tube, and where anyone can donate or support you and your efforts.
Thank you. American Made is our show. It's weekly, Saturday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. On the Worldview Tube network. It streams on our channels as well, at Ann Vandersteel on X and Rumble, etc. Anywhere you can find me, and Worldview Tube. It is a fantastic show. Again, Maureen Steele and I brought this together through our American Made Foundation and our American Made Action, our 501c4 action arm. Those organizations are focused on the education that Americans need to know in order how to govern themselves, because we have a fiduciary responsibility to our government, to our Constitution, to our republic, to be our own government and to advocate, as we just did with President Trump, and he listened. As we explained, it's that fundamentally simple. But we also have a duty to fix the system, or to alter and abolish it, as you alluded to earlier in this broadcast. And it's incumbent upon we the people. We are the government. So we're teaching people those skills weekly on this network.
Ann Vandersteel, thank you. God only knows what we're going to talk about next week. Have a great day. Ann Vandersteel, she's incredible. If you want to be ahead of the curve and on the information curve, then you go to her X account, and read her post. Thank you, Ann. She's awesome. One way we can support this show and support worldviewtube.com is to support our sponsors. We have Pet Club 24/7, Pet Club 247, or go to truthwithjj247.com, truthwithjj247.com. And we're talking about taking your power back and taking your health back. And the one way is through a mushroom. Of all things, can you believe it? God created something here on earth that we don't need to shoot into our veins 97 times as a baby. We can take the natural route that God created, and Pet Club 24/7 took this mushroom and put it in capsule form, put it in bombs, put it in pet treats, pet foods, and it works. It works. There are over 400 testimonials. There are for their pets, your pet's digestive system, their gut, the human gut. That's the great thing about God. He creates stuff and it works for everyone and everything we need. God did not create the earth in 7 days and then come back 2,000 years later and need to create pharmaceuticals. You see the absurdity of that. I use Pet Club 24/7. I have friends. Alpha Warrior uses it. He uses the blue bottle, as we call it, for mental clarity. I use the green bottle for my immune system, my gut, as I've been poisoned from the COVID. So I have COVID still in me, and I have the remdesivir coursing through my veins. I need to purge all of that crap out of my body so I can be prepared to fight. At least that's my mindset about everything. It's just prepare to fight and be prepared to be a husband and a father and be alive to be a protector and a provider. So I use Pet Club and go to truthwithjj247.com, truthwithjj247.com. Oh man, fast show. We're down. We're going down. I want to show you, I have this titled, this episode, can you believe people vote for Democrats? Honestly. And this man needs to thank God for the Iranian war. And this is Senator Padilla from Southern California. I think he's from Santa Ana. I could be wrong, but he's that type of, he has that look, if you will. If you're from Southern California, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This is the guy that tried to bum rush last week Kristi Noem's presser. No one knows who he is. He's a nobody senator. He's a halfwit. Play this video for me, Caleb, just so our audience understands. This guy did this. He's a sitting senator and came into a presser with Homeland Security and began to yell at Kristi Noem. No one knew who he was. Go ahead and play this, please.
Hands up, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary, because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your hands off.
How many of our ICE agents have been doxxed for doing their duty? How they have been targeted?
That's Senator Padilla. That's a sitting senator. There's only 100 of those SOBs. He's yelling at Kristi Noem. All he had to do was call Kristi Noem and he would have a sit-down discussion, which Kristi Noem gave him after that. She has more courtesy and civility than I would. I would just tell him to go pound sand. Go hang out with your homies burning the Mexican flag outside, dude. That's not the end of it. That's not the end of the altercation. Watch this video. This is the end. They push Padilla down to the ground and have to cuff him, a sitting senator. Watch this.
Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
If you let my hands go and put them behind my back.
All right. Cool. Other hand. Lay flat. Lay flat.
Other hand, sir. Other hand.
There's no recording allowed out here. I did not know. There's no recording allowed out here per FBI, right?
Caleb, can you just go back on a still photo of the officers kneeling on him? And yeah, right there, if you can just show that on the still shot. Audience, that moron is a sitting senator from California named Padilla. This guy's a buffoon. He's a moron. I know him because I'm from Southern California. He's an idiot. You have a sitting senator face down in a hallway, face on the carpet, 3 agents hovering over him, picking his arms back. He's an older man, so he's definitely almost breaking his shoulders to get his cuffs on him. This is the Democrat Party. This is the party of opposition. This is the party that hates you, America. This party. I wonder if the reason why he's there is because his people are being arrested, meaning illegal aliens are being arrested. That's why he's acting this way. He's mad that ICE is arresting illegal aliens in Southern California. This is what this is the hill he died on. This jackass actually is arrested for bum rushing Kristi Noem about illegal aliens from Mexico, his people being arrested. God, how did we get here? How did we get here? Let me show you another one. Let me show you another person. This is Tim Walz last week. Don't forget, Tim Walz was the almost elected vice president. This is the Democrats' #1 choice for VP. Watch Congresswoman Mace just absolutely shred him. Listen to what he can't answer. This is the Democrat Party. These are the mental patients on the other side. Play this, please.
What is a woman? What is a woman is the question.
I'm not sure I understand the question here.
Well, that.
What do you want me to say? This is.
I want you to say that a woman like me is an adult human female, that men can't become women. You guys are the party of violence, and you're the party erasing women. You don't respect us. You're a bigot. You're a misogynist. You're a sexist. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Yep, you are. The Democrats are misogynistic. They are bigots. They're racist. They're abomination. I'll be honest. I know I'm not supposed to, but I hate the Democrats. I hate the left. I hate them. They're a sworn enemy. And if you don't look at them that way, they look at us that way. If you don't look at that part of America as the enemy, then you're a fool. Because they will kill you. At the very least, they will strip your First Amendment. They will have you fired from your job. And you will not be able to make a living. Thus, they will kill you. Or they will just go and kill you. A la the two people that voted against the Democrat agenda in Minnesota. One of Tim Walz's best friends, the guy that he claimed is a genius, goes and kills two, a sitting senator and a sitting representative from the state of Minnesota. I want to play this next video just so you understand what the Democrats believe in as they gave George Soros $260 million of your dollars. What? Let's listen to this.
Donald Trump claims Hungarian-American billionaire George Soros is responsible for interfering in the political landscape of many countries. The account claims that Soros used a hefty $260 million from U.S. aid to spread chaos, change governments, and pursue personal gain in countries such as India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Ukraine. Now, this comes as the Trump administration continues to freeze U.S. aid's budget, describing its initiatives as misaligned with American interests and accusing them of destabilizing global peace.
Oh, many ideas, but look, he's done a great job. Look at all the fraud that he's found in this U.S. AID. It's a disaster what the people, radical left lunatics, they have things that nobody would have even believed. The whole thing with $100 million spent on you know what, with money going to all sorts of groups that shouldn't deserve to get any money, with the money. I'd like to see what the kickbacks are.
Yeah, I would like to see the kickbacks. $260 million. That's a drop in the bucket. Let's just drop. We're talking billions and billions and billions. This is the Democrat Party. And it's the Republican Party that stands by and allows it to happen. Here's another intellectual midget. His name is Ted Lieu. And I want you to listen to what he's saying about disobeying the president and disobeying the presidential orders, which is an insurrection. Listen to this.
The legal authority Trump is using is 10 U.S.C. Section 12406. I encourage all of you to read it. It very specifically says the only way he can do this is through the orders of the governors of the states. Governor Newsom clearly has not given this order. The National Guard troops are following unlawful orders. I ask every National Guard person who is under this order to read the order, to see if it came from Governor Newsom, and then to read the law and then decide for themselves if they are following unlawful orders.
Can you believe people vote for these people? Can you believe people follow these half-wits? I want to play, this is a new up-and-coming star, Brandon Gill, as he destroys Illinois governor, giant Jabba the Hutt face. Watch this. No, I don't have time for it. Or do I? Yeah, we'll do that and we'll end it out.
Do you think men should be allowed in women's restrooms?
I'm not sure why this has come to this issue.
You tweeted that as a protest against President Trump, everyone should use the other gender's bathroom today. Have you ever used the women's restroom?
Not that I can recall ever, sir.
You wanted everybody else to do it, but you didn't?
Sir, I'm not sure why we're on a topic that has nothing to do with today's hearing.
You're advocating for men to use women's restrooms, but you didn't do it?
I do not advocate that, no.
Well, actually, you did. You said everyone should use the other gender's bathroom today.
I can tell you that you are politicizing this in a way that what we ought to be focusing on is the failure of the federal government
to use women's restrooms
and the Congress to deal with immigration reform.
Do you regret encouraging men to use women's restrooms?
Again, you're taking us on topics that have.
Did you ever consider that women don't want you in their bathrooms?
This is exactly how we have to talk to them, like they're mental patients. That I want you to understand that there is a significant percentage of our society that aligns with these mental patients. That's why we live in a country that is off-center. We are in a fight for the soul of America, not just with Democrats, but the rhinos as well, as we're trying to provide amnesty to farm workers, as we're trying to enter a new world war with Iran. Buckle up, America. We are at war.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of